Looking for epic campsites in Alberta? You have to watch this video. You ready?
Waking up to this, I can do that just about every single day. Wow.
This episode is brought to you in part by Earl's Off-Road and Custom.
A wonderful good day to everybody. I hope everybody has been well. Taking a little bit of a walk in a nice crispy -30 day, but it is amazingly beautiful out here, so I do not mind, not one little bit. So one of the most common questions that I always get is, Jason, where do you find your campsites? And as you could tell from that intro, I had some pretty awesome campsites, and I'm gonna kind of explain to you on this particular video how in a public land use zone you can find some amazing campsites.
I'm just going to jump in here real quick to describe a couple of the different land uses that are available when you do Crown land camping. As you can see from this map, there's a lot spread between protected areas, Crown land camping areas, and then privately owned areas. As we jump to this map, you can see that it's kind of divided up. We got the protected areas, Banff, Jasper, and Kananaskis. The light blue is all your Crown land camping. When you're camping in the Crown land camping area, you have to make sure that you're not on public land or on land that is being used for logging, mining, etc. Usually they will post signs if that's the case. And within the Crown land camping area, we have something called a public land use zone. Here's a map of all the different public land use zones in the West Country. Each public land use zone does have its own rules, so you have to make sure you download the maps. I'll describe that a little bit further along in the video. Something to keep in mind, when you're actually going to be camping on Crown land, you need to get a Crown land camping pass. Here's the website. I'm showing it on the video here. Here's the, if you look down below, I've got the actual website address. I'll put it in the link. But it's $20 for a 3-day pass and $30 for a 1-year pass. So it's kind of a no-brainer. You might as well get a 1-year pass, especially if you camp as much as I do.
So some of my favorite ways to look for a campsite in a public land use zone is to use some of the information that the government gives you on the land use zone. So you can download the maps from the government sites, and they design it to actually work with a program called avenza maps. So you can download the maps and they're geo tagged, so you can actually use avenza and see that you're actually on the trail you're supposed to be on. And in a public land use zone, essentially they have different colors for different trails and different uses. So if you're driving, typically you're allowed to be on a black trail or a purple trail. The purple trail is going to indicate that it is a little bit more of a trail versus a road, and black is going to be more of a road. So there's a couple different variances on there. We want to stay off, especially in the public land use zones, because they are restricted, off the trails we're not supposed to be on. Now, best way to say what a public land use zone is, when you go to Moab, you're allowed on certain trails, and they'll usually have a map showing all the trails that you're allowed to go on. Well, that's the Alberta equivalent of a public land use, or the Alberta equivalent to that is a public land use zone. So you can get the maps. They're free to download. Put them in your Avenza app and away you go. So that's one step in finding a nice campsite in a public land use zone, is finding out where you can travel in the first place. So these are public lands. We're allowed to go there. And so, yeah, get out there, and enjoy them. That's what they're there for. And yeah, get out there, and to find good campsites while you're out there. I'll be honest, a lot of that is trial and error. Get out, go into that area, and actually find the actual campsites that you want while driving on the roads that you're allowed to be on. So there's a little bit of trial and error to it. It's where I use some of the other maps or map programs that kind of comes in handy. So while I'm out there, I use two other mapping programs. One is called Gaia Offroad, and the nice thing about Gaia is it is free for the basic app, but if you pay the yearly membership, you can then download different layers and put different layers on. So you can actually download Backroads map books, which is a very popular map system for the backcountry, and layer it with GPS or satellite maps to kind of look and see where you want to potentially have a campsite. Now, the other app that I use is called Onyx Offroad. And Onyx Offroad, I've just recently started using it. Kind of asked Bruce, he's a gentleman that I've kind of relied on for information on Onyx Offroad, as to what it can do. And I find that the actual maps on Onyx Offroad, you can zoom in and you get a little bit of a clearer picture on like, I'm looking for areas that show campsites when I'm out in that area. So I find the overhead topical, not the topographical, the kind of like the top down view where you can see all the trees and everything. That style of map is a little bit more superior on Onyx Offroad. So I find that using that style on Onyx Offroad, I can see my potential campsites a little bit easier. So when we get out there, I look, okay, here's a campsite. And the funny story is, usually when you get to the campsite that you think is going to be really cool, you'll look over and go, oh wow, over there's a campsite that's way nicer. So that's going to be the majority of how you're finding these particular campsites. So once you find these campsites, I usually pin them on my GPS maps, both in Gaia Offroad and also on Onyx Offroad, so that I can kind of figure out where to go. Then I could explore around those areas and maybe throw some GPS locations on some different areas that I might potentially want to come back out and camp in. Because usually when you go to an area, you're like, man, I came out here to look at this campsite, but there are 10 other campsites that are pretty amazing. So it's always, like I said before, a process of exploration. And to be honest, that is, I would say, 50% of the fun of finding your campsites is just getting out there and exploring. So that's how I find my campsites. I also use any of the other tools that are out there. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll use Google Maps and kind of zoom in on an area, use Google Maps, and sometimes I'll go onto different forums and read some of the there's some really good writers out there, and you can read blog posts and stuff like that of the experiences that they had while they were out there. And some of them are pretty cool, but it gives you an idea of some of the attractions and potential campsites that you can go and visit. So this is kind of the way I find my campsites, no matter if I'm in my Jeep, in my truck, if I'm towing my 25-foot trailer. Yes, I have a 25-foot trailer. I know, gasp. Most people usually see me in my tent, but or before in my rooftop tent. But yes, I have a 25-foot trailer, and yes, I take it out camping. Having some issues with my mic today. It's cold enough out here that the electronics are freezing up. So But man, what a beautiful day to go out for a walk. This is a little bit of a walking trail that goes right by the Red Deer River. Beautiful, I love it. Can't camp down here. It's not a real off-grid style place. It's in the city of Red Deer, but an amazing walking trail to go and spend some time and get out with nature. I wasn't going to be doing any camping this weekend, so I thought it was the perfect time to come up with this video and describe how I find my campsites. I'll make this quick because my electronics are failing. Thanks for joining, everybody. I will see you on the next adventure.